Have you ever felt stuck in conversations because your questions sounded too simple or repetitive? Just asking what or how over and over again? Well, today we're going on a deep dive to unlock 40 ways to ask questions just like a native English speaker. And trust me, this is going to change the way you speak forever. Stick with me, because I'm going to show you how to sound more natural, confident, and even a bit more curious, just like a local. Imagine you're in a coffee shop chatting with friends or work leading a meeting, knowing these question forms will make you stand out and keep conversations flowing smoothly. So let's start with some easy variations that native speakers use to keep things interesting. Instead of always saying, "What is this?" you could say, "Could you tell me what this is?" Or, "Do you happen to know what this is?" Notice how adding these small phrases makes the question sound softer and more polite. Now repeat after me. Could you tell me what this is? Great. Say it again a little faster. Could you tell me what this is? Perfect. Now try. Do you happen to know what this is? Let's slow that down. Do you happen to know what this is? And now normal speed. See how that feels? This is where it gets exciting, because these little tweaks open up whole new ways to engage in English, making you sound more natural and friendly. Here's something interesting. Native speakers often use tag questions to turn statements into questions. Like, "You're coming to the party, aren't you?" Have you noticed that? Try it with me. "You're coming to the party, aren't you?" Now faster. "You're coming to the party, aren't you?" Using tag questions adds a conversational tone and invites agreement, which is great for building connections. If this is making sense to you so far, give me a quick like. It helps me know you're with me. All right, moving on. Let's explore some alternatives for asking where. Instead of just, "Where is it?" you can say, "Could you point me to where it is?" Or, "Would you happen to know where it's located?" These versions feel more polished and sound more native-like. Repeat after me. Could you point me to where it is? Now normal speed. Would you happen to know where it's located? Notice the difference. It's subtle, but it makes a big impact. Here's the secret that most learners don't know. Mixing these phrases with where questions not only improves your grammar, but also your tone. And tone is everything in natural conversations. Now, speaking of tone, let's practice the question, why? Instead of saying, "Why did you do that?" which can sound a bit harsh, try, "I was wondering why you chose that." Or, "Could you explain why you did that?" Let's practice. "I was wondering why you chose that." Say it again a bit faster. "I was wondering why you chose that." Now try. "Could you explain why you did that?" Perfect. These softer versions sound more curious and less confrontational, which is important in English conversations. And wait, there's more. Native speakers often use questions starting with, "Do you mind?" when they want to be polite. For example, "Do you mind telling me where the bathroom is?" Let's say that together. "Do you mind telling me where the bathroom is?" Now faster. "Do you mind telling me where the bathroom is?" This phrase is a lifesaver for polite requests and questions. Try to use it in your next conversation. It will impress your listeners. If you're enjoying these examples, I'd love to hear in the comments which phrase you found most useful so far. Now, let me tell you about a student I had who struggled with sounding too direct when asking questions. After practicing variations like, "Would you happen to know?" or "I was wondering if," her conversations became much smoother and she started making new friends more easily. And in just a moment, I'll show you exactly how to use some of these phrases in real-life scenarios, so stay tuned. Now let's shift gears a little and talk about when questions. Instead of, "When is the meeting?" try, "Could you let me know when the meeting starts?" Or, "Do you know when it's scheduled?" Repeat after me. Could you let me know when the meeting starts? Now faster. Do you know when it's scheduled? Using these longer, more polite questions helps you sound more professional and thoughtful. And speaking of professional, here's a quick tip. In business English, it's common to use "May I ask?" before a question like, "May I ask when you'll be available?" Say that with me. "May I ask when you'll be available?" And again a bit faster. May I ask when you'll be available? These phrases help you show respect and build good relationships in the workplace. Now, here's a little challenge for you. Can you think of a way to ask who is responsible for this without just saying that? Here's a hint. Try, could you tell me who is in charge of this? Or, do you happen to know who's handling this? Repeat these. Could you tell me who is in charge of this? Do you happen to know who's handling this? Great job! These versions are clearer and more natural. And that brings us to the question word, which. Instead of simply, which one do you want? You can say, would you mind telling me which one you prefer? Or, could you help me decide which one is better? Let's practice together. Would you mind telling me which one you prefer? Now faster. Could you help me decide which one is better? These questions make you sound helpful and polite, perfect for everyday conversations or customer service. By the way, if this is making sense and you're enjoying the pace, don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Sharing helps everyone learn faster. Now, moving to more complex questions, let's talk about can and could. Instead of just, can you help me? Native speakers often say, would you be able to help me with this? Or, could you possibly help me out? Try these with me. Would you be able to help me with this? Could you possibly help me out? Notice how these sound softer and more polite, and they invite a positive response. Now, let's practice a fun one. Have you ever? Is a great way to start interesting conversations. For example, have you ever tried sushi? Or, have you ever been to New York? Say these after me. Have you ever tried sushi? Have you ever been to New York? These questions show curiosity and encourage stories, which is a great way to connect with people. And here's a tip. You can also ask, did you ever? But have you ever? Sounds more natural in everyday speech. Now here's something fascinating. When asking for opinions, native speakers use, what do you think about? Or how do you feel about? These are excellent for inviting conversation. Let's try, what do you think about this idea? How do you feel about the new policy? These questions show you care about the other person's thoughts and feelings. Now repeat after me. What do you think about this idea? How do you feel about the new policy? Great! And here's where it gets even better. You can mix these with softer openings like, I was wondering. For example, I was wondering what you think about this plan. Or, I was wondering how you feel about working from home. Let's slow this down. I was wondering what you think about this plan. Now normal speed. I was wondering how you feel about working from home. Using these phrases makes your questions more inviting and less direct, which is often appreciated in English-speaking cultures. If you're finding this helpful, hit the like button and let me know in the comments which question you want to try first in your next conversation. Now, shifting focus, let's talk about would you mind and do you mind? Questions that are perfect for polite requests. For example, would you mind closing the window? Or do you mind if I sit here? Repeat after me. Would you mind closing the window? Do you mind if I sit here? Notice the difference between would and do. Both are polite, but would is a bit more formal. These forms are great for everyday social situations, making your English sound smooth and respectful. Now, speaking of respect, here's a question style that's often overlooked but very powerful. Is it okay if, or would it be all right if, for instance, is it okay if I borrow your pen? Or would it be all right if we reschedule our meeting? Let's practice. Is it okay if I borrow your pen? Would it be all right if we reschedule our meeting? Using these makes your requests sound considerate and professional. Now here's something interesting. When you want to clarify information, native speakers often use, am I right in thinking that? Or is it correct that? For example, am I right in thinking that the meeting is at 3 p.m.? Or is it correct that the report is due tomorrow? Say these with me. Am I right in thinking that the meeting is at 3 p.m.? Is it correct that the report is due tomorrow? These questions show that you're careful and want to avoid misunderstandings, which is very useful. And here's a tip. You can also use, do I understand correctly that, which works just as well. Now, if you're still with me, that's awesome. Remember to take a deep breath and try repeating some of these questions aloud to build your confidence. Now, moving on to could you please? Questions, which are perfect for polite requests in formal situations. For example, could you please send me the document? Or, could you please explain that again? Let's say them together. Could you please send me the document? Could you please explain that again? These are very common in emails and business conversations. Here's the thing. Using please and could together adds extra politeness, so it's a great habit to develop. Now, shifting to a more casual style, native speakers sometimes use what's up with or what's going on with when they want to ask about a situation. For example, what's up with the traffic today? Or what's going on with your project? Say these with me. What's up with the traffic today? What's going on with your project? These questions sound informal and friendly, perfect for chatting with colleagues or friends. Now, here's a useful trick. When you want to express surprise or curiosity, you can say, why on earth? Or, how come? For example, why on earth did you do that? Or, how come you're late? Repeat, why on earth did you do that? How come you're late? These add emotion and interest to your questions, making conversations livelier. Now, let's practice some speed changes to help your pronunciation. Say this slowly with me. Why on earth did you do that? Now normal speed. Why on earth did you do that? And one more time faster. Why on earth did you do that? Great! Now moving forward, let's explore would you like to? Questions, which invite someone to do something politely. For example, would you like to join us for dinner? Or would you like to see the new movie? Repeat. Would you like to join us for dinner? Would you like to see the new movie? These questions are very common in invitations and polite offers. If you're enjoying this so far, I'd love to hear in the comments which phrase you want to practice next. Now, speaking of practice, here's a fun one. When you want to confirm information, you can use, am I correct in saying that? Or, is it true that, for example, am I correct in saying that you're moving to a new city? Or, is it true that the company is hiring? Say with me. Am I correct in saying that you're moving to a new city? Is it true that the company is hiring? These are excellent for polite clarifications. Now let's move on to, shall we? Questions, which are used to suggest actions. For example, shall we start the meeting now? Or, shall we take a break? Repeat. Shall we start the meeting now? Shall we take a break? These are formal but friendly, often used in professional or group settings. Here's a little story. I once had a student who struggled with sounding too direct. After learning to use shall we and would you mind, her tone changed completely. Her conversations became smoother, and people responded much better. This shows how important these small question forms are. Now, let's talk about what about questions, which are great for suggesting alternatives or ideas. For example, what about going to the park? Or what about trying a new restaurant? Say these. What about going to the park? What about trying a new restaurant? These questions invite others to share opinions and make plans together. And here's a tip. You can use how about as a similar expression. Try how about we meet at 6 p.m. with me. Now, as we near the end of our list, let's look at could I ask you? Questions, which are very polite and respectful. For example, could I ask you a favor? Or, could I ask you about your experience? Repeat after me. Could I ask you a favor? Could I ask you about your experience? These are perfect for building trust and respect in conversations. Now, before we finish, here's a quick recap. We covered 40 different ways to ask questions beyond just what and how. We explored polite requests, conversational starters, business English, casual talk, and even ways to express surprise or confirm information. Keep practicing these variations daily, and soon you'll notice how naturally they come to you. Remember, language is about connection and curiosity. The more you ask questions that invite conversation, the more people will want to talk with you. So, don't be shy, try these phrases in your next chat. If this video helped you, please give it a like, share it with someone who's learning English, and leave a comment telling me which question you're excited to use first. I read every comment and love hearing your progress. Keep practicing, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next episode of English Journey. Until then, keep asking great questions and keep growing your English every day.